is changed the style of writing the Java programming, right? The new style, the new changes happen in the 1.8 version changed the style of writing the Java programming. And what are the main objectives of 1.8? Simplifying Java programming, to simplify the Java programming and to enable functional programming in the Java, to write more readable and concise code in the Java. They introduced the new features in the 1.8 version. And we have seen the summary. What are the new features that got introduced in the 1.8 version? First change, interfaces got changed in the 1.8 version. Up to 1.7, we can write only abstract methods in the interfaces, but from 1.8 version, we can write concrete methods also in the interface. Concrete method means a method which contains a body. We can write concrete methods also in the interfaces from 1.8 version, but the concrete methods that we are writing should be either default or static. Default methods we can override in the implementation classes, and static methods we cannot override in the implementation classes. Functional interfaces got introduced. The interface which contains only one abstract method is called functional interface, and there are several predefined functional interfaces also introduced in the 1.8 version. Lambda expression, that is one of the biggest change. Lambda expressions, to simplify the coding, they introduced this concept. Method references available as an alternate for the Lambda expressions. Method references available, and stream API also introduced. Collections already we have in the Java. Collections are used to store the data, whereas stream API is used to process the data. Optional class, special iterator, string joiner, collections framework changes, date and time API changes also introduced in 1.8. In the last session, we have seen why we need to go for default and static methods in the Java 8. Right. Interface can have concrete methods from 1.8 version. Interface concrete method should be default or static. When you are writing a concrete method in the interface, that method should be either default method or static method. Interface default methods we can override in implementation classes. What are the implementation classes we are writing? Those things we can override in the classes. If you don't want anybody to override your interface concrete method, then you need to make it as a static method. And we have seen forEach method got added in the iterable interface as a default method. So there is no backward effect. There is no effect for the existing classes available in the Java which are implementing the iterable. If you add a new method in the interface, then it will break the existing functionality. To avoid that problem, they introduced this default and static methods concept. Yesterday we have seen that practically. All of you able to understand why they supported default and static methods in the interface? What is the difference between default methods and static methods, guys? Able to understand? Good, perfect. So today let's understand the next feature in the Java 1.8, that is Lambda expressions. The next concept is Lambda expressions. Very important topic. Lambda expressions. Lambda expressions introduced in Java 1.8 version. Introduced in Java 1.8 version. It is also called as Java 8. Introduced in Java 1.8 version. Sir, earlier Java is called as object-oriented programming language. Java is called as object-oriented programming language. Java supports for OOPS principles. Java supports for OOPS principles. That's why Java is called as object-oriented programming language. From 1.8 version onwards, Java is also called as functional programming language. Java is also called as functional programming language. Okay, so what is the difference between object-oriented programming language and functional programming language. Java is called as object-oriented programming language. Everything will be represented in the form of class and object. Whatever the logic that we want to write, everything will be represented using classes and objects. Any programming language which supports for the OOPS principles will support for classes and objects. That programming language is called as object-oriented programming language. In the object-oriented programming language, everything will be represented in the form of classes and objects. But from 1.8 version onwards, Java is called as functional programming language also. Java is called as functional programming language also. What is the difference between object-oriented programming language and functional programming language? In object-oriented programming language, in OOP language, classes and objects are main entities. Classes and objects are main entities when you go for OOP language. If you go for any OOP based language, classes and objects are called as main entities. Classes and objects are called as main entities. Okay. If you write any method, we need to write the methods. We need to write the methods inside the class only. We need to write the methods inside the class only. Object-oriented programming language means classes and objects. Classes and objects are the main entities in the OOP language. We need to write methods inside the class only. There is no meaning of the method outside of the class. When you are dealing with OOP language, everything we need to represent in the form of class and objects. Whatever the methods you want to write, those methods you need to write inside the class only. A method which is outside of the class, there is no meaning. There is no meaning for the method which is outside of the class when it comes to Java. But from 1.8, what happened? In the 1.8, what happened? Functional programming means everything will be represented in the form of functions. Everything will be represented in the form of functions. Clear? In the object-oriented language, things will be represented as the classes and objects, and functions we need to write inside the class only. But in the functional programming languages, everything will be represented inside the functions. Everything will be represented in the form of functions. Functions can exist outside of the class or inside of the class. Functions can exist outside of the class also. Whatever the functions we are writing by using lambdas, those functions can exist outside of the class also. Function can be stored into a reference variable. Functions can be stored into a reference variable. Earlier we used it to create the variables to store the objects. Earlier we used it to store the objects in the variables, but now in the functional programming language, we can store a function also into a variable. We can store a function also as a function also into a variable. A function can be passed as a method parameters. A function can be passed to other functions as parameter. A function can be passed as a parameter for other methods. As a parameter to other methods. So to write the more readable code and to write the more concise code, this lambda expressions and functional programming got introduced. These lambda expressions are biggest change. The main reason for lambda is to provide functional programming support in the Java. Lambda expressions introduced in Java 1.8 version. Java is called as object-oriented programming language. Everything will be represented using classes and objects. From 1.8 version onwards, Java is called as functional programming language. In OOP language, classes and objects are main entities. We need to write methods inside the class only. Functional programming means everything will be represented in the form of functions. Functions can exist outside of the class. functions can be stored into a reference variable. A function can be passed as a parameter to other methods also. Functional programming means everything will be represented in the form of functions. Functions can exist outside of the class. Function can be stored into a reference variable. A function can be passed as a parameter to other functions also. Now, what is Lambda? What is Lambda? Lambda expressions are introduced to enable Lambda expressions introduced in Java to enable functional programming. To enable functional programming, these Lambda expressions got introduced in the Java. Lambda expressions introduced in Java to enable functional programming. What is this Lambda? Guys, let's understand what is this Lambda. Simple. Lambda is an anonymous function. What is Lambda? Lambda is an anonymous function. Anonymous function means a function without name. Lambda is an anonymous function. No name for the Lambda. Whenever you are writing the Lambda does not have any name, no modifier, and no return type. Lambda is what? Lambda is an anonymous function. These lambdas introduced in Java to enable functional programming. In the functional programming, everything will be represented in the form of a function. A function can available inside the class, outside the class. A function can be stored into a variable. One function can be passed as a parameter for other methods also. That is a functional programming. Got it? Lambda expressions introduced in Java to enable that functional programming only. So what is the definition of the Lambda? What is Lambda? Lambda is an anonymous function. Lambda means no name, no modifier, and no return type. So what is the definition for the Lambda? Lambda means it is an anonymous function. Lambda will not have any name. Lambda will not have any modifier. Lambda will not have any return type. Lambda means an anonymous function without name, without modifier, and without return type. That is called Lambda expression. Now, why these lambdas are added in the Java 1.8? Lambdas are used to enable functional programming. By using these lambdas, Java supported functional programming. Got my point? Now, let us understand how to write a lambda expression. Let us understand how to write our lambda expression. How to write lambda expression. Now, let me take one simple example to write the lambda expression. Let me take one simple example to write the lambda expression. In general, how we are going to write the methods in the Java? For example, I want to write one method, public void m1. Public void m1. So here we will write some logic inside the method. So this is called one method. This is called one method. Now, if I want to convert this into lambda, lambda means what? Lambda means no name, no modifier, no return type. So name will not be available, return type will not be available, modifier will not be available. That is called lambda. Right? Lambda is an anonymous function without name, without return type, and without modifier. So this is my m1 method. From this m1 method, instead of writing this m1 method, I want to write a lambda expression. So what is the definition for the lambda? Lambda is an anonymous function, no name, no modifier, no return type. So from this, remove the name m1, return type void, remove that, modifier public, remove that. If I remove all these things, then what is my lambda? Just a bracket will be available. Just a bracket will be available. And to represent the body, we are going to write like this. To represent the body, we are going to write like this. Are you clear with this? This is a lambda expression. This is a lambda expression. Instead of this, let me take like this. Inside this m1 method, I'm writing system.out.println, for example. Inside the m1 method, I'm writing system.out.println of some hi. This is used to print one statement on the console. This I'm writing by using a method. Now, instead of a method, I want to go for lambda. Instead of the method, I want to go for lambda. Now, when you go for lambda, no name. So remove the name. Remove the name from this. M1 is the name. So remove the name. Name will not be available for lambda. Lambda will not have any return type. Remove the void also. Lambda will not have any modifier. Remove the modifier also. If I remove everything, then what is remaining? Braces available to represent parameter, and one arrow will come, arrow function, and a body. What is that body? System.out.println of hi. System.out.println of hi will be available. This is called as our lambda. This is called as our lambda expression. Instead of writing a method, we can write that in the lambda as a function, anonymous function, no name, no name. Here guys, if you see, this represents input for the lambda, and this arrow represents lambda body. Lambda body, lambda body, lambda body, nothing but logic. No name, no return type, no modifier. Parameters can be available. To represent the parameters for the lambda, these braces we are taking, this arrow represents body of the lambda. Instead of writing these curly braces, here we are writing curly brace, right? Lambda curly brace will be available. Curly body starting point. Body starting point is available. This is my lambda expression. System.out.println of hi. This part is called as body of our lambda. This part is called as body of our lambda. Inside this lambda, we are not taking any input, but lambda is having a body. In the body, to represent the body, we are using arrow. Arrow represents body for the lambda. Good. In the lambda body, I have only one line. When there is only one line in the lambda body, writing the curly braces also optional. I can convert this lambda like this. Simple. I can convert this lambda like this. System.out.println of hi. Earlier, we used it to write a method to print one message. Now, same thing can be done by using lambda like this. See, less number of lines of code. Less number of lines of code, more readable and more concise code we are writing, that is functional programming. Everything will be represented as a function in the lambda. Lambda is nothing but an anonymous function. Lambda function nothing but no name, no modifier, no return type. Now example 1 I'm taking. We use it to write a method public void m1. Public void m1. Here I'm writing system.out.println of hi. System.out.println of hi, we are writing like this. So if I want to convert this into lambda, I can write like this. Curly braces represents a body. Inside the body, system.out.println of hi. Println of hi. Good. If you observe, this is representing my lambda input. This is arrow represents lambda body. Lambda body we are writing in the curly braces. When we have single line in the lambda body, curly braces are optional. When we have single line in body, then curly braces are optional. Curly braces are optional. So I can write this lambda like this. I can write this lambda like this. Simple. No curly brace, system.out.println hi. Whatever the logic that is executing by the m1 method, same logic will is executing by my lambda. Instead of writing this method from the 1.8, we are going to write like this. So here method is having a braces to represent input. Method is having a body. So instead of writing that method, we are writing lambdas. Good. Now this is one example to understand how to write a lambda. Now let me go for second example to write the lambda. Here I'm taking one method. Public void add method integer a comma integer b. My method is taking two parameters and it is going to perform sum of two numbers a plus b. Public void add into a comma into b system.out.println of a plus b. So this is used to perform sum of two numbers. This is used to perform sum of two numbers. Now I want to convert this method into lambda expression. I want to convert this method into lambda expression. As we discussed, lambda means no name. Lambda means no name. Remove the name, no modifier, and no return type. Remove these things. The remaining part is our lambda. Just we write the arrow to represent the body. Here if you see, into A is available, into B is available, and body. So how we are going to write the body? Curly braces. We are going to write a curly brace. Body representing system dot out dot println A plus B. A is a input, B is a input. Integer type inputs are there. Into A comma into B. System dot out dot println of A plus B. This is our lambda expression. This is our lambda expression. Here, as we discussed, when we have only one line in the body, curly braces are optional. So when I remove the curly braces, how it is going to represent? Into A comma into B. Simply system dot out dot println A plus B. System dot out dot println of A plus B. Like this, we are going to represent that function, lambda function, anonymous function. No name, no parameter, no name, no modifier, no return type. Parameters are there. So int A comma int B are the two parameters. Now here guys, whenever you are passing a parameters for the lambda, specifying the data type is also optional. A comma B, simply you can take system dot out dot println of A plus B. Based on values that you are supplying, lambda will understand what is the data type. If you pass into values, it will perform the sum. If you pass string values, it will perform concatenation. So this is the simplest form of the lambda, which is equal for add method. Lambda is an anonymous function. That anonymous nothing but nameless function. No name, no modifier, no return type. Here I have taken a add method with two parameters. I'm performing sum of those two numbers and printing on the console. Equivalent lambda we can write like this. First I removed the name, I removed the modifier, I removed the return type. Then this is our lambda. Here when you observe, there is only one line in the body. When the lambda is having one line body, curly braces are optional. So I removed the curly braces here. Then after, when you are passing input for the lambda, specifying the data type also optional. Lambda will guess what type of data you are passing. Based on that, it is going to perform the operation. Are you guys able to understand? Are you guys able to understand how to write the lambda now? Yeah, so second example here, I'm taking this example 2. In the example 2, I have taken a method, public void add method into A comma into B. Into A comma into B. Here I'm taking system.out.println A plus B. System.out.println A plus B. What is the equivalent lambda for this? Here I'm taking into A comma into B. Into A comma into B. Arrow represents lambda body. Curly braces will be available to write that body. System.out.println A plus B. When the lambda is having only one line in the body, writing the curly brace is also optional. Int A comma into B. Simply we are going to write system.out.println A plus B. When we are passing input for the lambda, specifying the parameter is also, data type is also optional. Then we can simply write system.out.println A plus B. That's it. Okay, here like this also you can write. Like this also you can write. Like this also you can write. This is normal Java method. When I write a equivalent lambda, it looks like this. Final lambda is this. Final lambda is this. In the example 1, I have taken a M1 method. It is having some body. When I convert that into lambda, it is going to look like this. In the example 2, I have the void add method into A comma into B. When I convert that into Lambda, it is going to look like this. When I convert into Lambda, it is going to look like this. When I convert into Lambda, it is going to look like this. Okay, guys. Able to understand? All of you. All of you able to understand how I am writing the Lambda? People may get a doubt. Sir, if Lambda does not have a name, then how to call it? Sir, earlier we used to write the methods, na? Methods have a name. Methods will have a name. We'll call the methods by using name. But here you are writing a Lambda. Lambda nothing but no name, no modifier, no return type. Then how to call the Lambdas? We'll come to that point. How to call the Lambdas, we'll come to that point. Okay. So here, when we are writing the method add method, which is taking two parameters, when I'm converting that to the Lambda, body will be written inside the curly braces. When there is a single line in the body, curly braces are optional. When my Lambda is taking the input, data types are also optional, because Lambda will guess what type of data you are passing. Based on that, it will perform the operation. Based on that, it will perform the operation. Are you clear with my point? Are you guys clear with my point? Now, I will give one third example. Can you write the Lambda for that? I will give you third example. Can you write the Lambda for that? Public integer get length. String name is the input. So it has to return name dot length. This is my method. Can you guys write the Lambda? Can you guys write the Lambda for this? Come on. Can you guys write the Lambda for this? Come on, fast, make it fast. I want you people to write the Lambda expression for my third example. For first two examples, I have written the Lambda. Now, I want you people to write the Lambda for my third example. Can you write? I'm giving 2 minutes of time. Write your Lambda for the given method. For the given method, you need to get the Lambda. Come on, guys. Fast. People who are watching from YouTube, please like our video and subscribe to our channel. Click on bell icon for more updates. You will get the notifications from our YouTube channel when we upload new video. If you see in our YouTube channel, I have started a series on Spring Boot full course. So if you go to our YouTube channel, you can see Spring Boot full course daily. I'm uploading one video into Spring Boot video series. So from basic level, I'm uploading the videos on the Spring Boot series. If you observe Spring Boot, what is Spring Boot, how to create the boot applications, how to create boot application in IDE, how to run the application, how internally boot application will execute, how to deploy boot application in the Heroku cloud, how to deploy the boot in AWS cloud, how to dockerize the Spring Boot application, how to create REST API in the Spring Boot. And today I'm releasing one more video, how to perform CRUD operations in the Spring Boot with MySQL database. That video will be released today at 8 p.m. Okay, so please subscribe to this channel and click on bell icon so that you will get the updates when I upload a video in our channel. So daily I'm trying to prepare one video on the Spring Boot. People are asking me to prepare Spring Boot videos, short videos, 10 minutes, 15 minutes videos on the Spring Boot concepts, which are very important. I'm doing that on daily basis. So please subscribe so that you will get the notification. People watching from online also in the Zoom, you can also subscribe to this channel. You will get more updates. I gave the link in the chat box. Okay. Subscribe and click on bell icon. So if you click bell icon, the advantage is whenever I upload a video, immediately you will get the notification. In the YouTube, someone is asking, please take one Kubernetes class. Dhruv Sharma. Sure, I will prepare the Kubernetes video series also, guys. So my next plan is to prepare Kubernetes videos after Spring Boot is completed. Dockers and Kubernetes, I will do that as well. I will upload those videos in our YouTube channel. Okay. Perfect. Good. Are you able to write the Lambda for this method? Are you guys able to write the Lambda for this method? Good. Now see how to write the Lambda expression for this get length method. So as we discussed, Lambda means no name, no modifier, no return type. So can I remove the name? Yes. Can I remove the return type? Yes. Can I remove the modifier? Yes. If I remove everything, then what will happen? Just we will have string name, then we will have a body. In the body, we are going to write the logic. What is the logic? Name dot length. Name dot length. Okay, guys. Name dot length we are writing. That length we want to return. So this is normal Lambda for this function. For this method, this is how we are going to write the Lambda expression. Getting my point? String name with the body. Body will be represented by using arrow mark. This is a Lambda. Arrow represents Lambda body. And this is input for the Lambda. String name I am passing as input. And here body. In the body, we are writing one line. As we already discussed, if we are writing only one line in the body, braces also optional, and data type is optional for Lambda input. So can I write a short form of this Lambda? I'm removing the data type. It's not mandatory. And I'm going to remove this and I'm going to return name dot length. So can I say this is the Lambda? Can I say this is the Lambda? Short form of the Lambda? Yes or no? This is the short form of the Lambda. Earlier, I have a data type and I have the curly braces. These curly braces are optional because there is a single line in the body. Data type is also optional. Remove the curly braces also. When I remove the curly braces, it is representing like this. When the Lambda is taking only one input, braces also optional. Okay, I will remove the brace also and I will write return name dot length. I will write return name dot length. When you are writing a single line, when you are calling single function in the single method in the Lambda, writing the return statement is also optional. Simply you can write like this, namespace name dot length. This is our final Lambda for the get length method. This is the final Lambda and the short form of the Lambda. This is the short form of the Lambda for the get length method. Are you able to understand? Are you guys able to understand? Here I'm taking a method as a get length method. This method is taking string name as a input. Return name dot length. It is returning that. So how I am writing the Lambda? Simply first I'm taking string name and Lambda body return name dot length. Name dot length. Single line in the body. When we have a single line in the body, writing the curly braces are optional. When we have single line in the body, writing curly braces are optional. So I'm going to take string name. I'm taking string name. Simply I'm going to take return name dot length. When the Lambda expression taking some input, writing the data type is optional for the Lambda inputs. So I'm going to take just name and I'm going to write return name dot length. Return name dot length. When we have single input for the lambda, writing the brackets optional, and when we are calling another function directly to return the value, writing the return statement is also optional. So this lambda can be written like this: name arrow name dot length, name arrow name dot length. See guys, whatever the function, whatever the method we are writing in the Java earlier, that method can be converted to single line like this. That is the power of the lambdas. That is the power of the lambdas. Understood? That is the power of lambdas. This length is a method in the string class. Name is a string variable, string class having a method called a length method. We are calling that length method to get the length of the string. Name I am passing, and the lambda is going to get the length of the string, and it is going to return that string length. It is going to return that string length. Understood? How we have written the lambda expression for third example? How we have written the lambda expression for third example? Understood for everybody? Come on. Now, can I give one more example? Can you write that? Can I give one more example? Can you write that? Example 4. Example 4. Assume that there is a method public method is returning a double value. The public get employee salary. I'm giving you employee object. Assume that this method is having employee dot get salary method. Get salary is the method available in the employee class. Okay, employee is one class which is having setters and getters for the variables, and this is my normal Java method. Public double get emp salary. Employee object I am passing as the input for the method. That method is calling getter method of the salary, and it is returning the salary of the employee. Can you tell me how to write a simple lambda expression for this? Can you tell me how to write a simple lambda expression for this? Can you guys write the lambda? Come on. Can you guys write the lambda for this? Come on guys, can you write the lambda for this? Simple version of the lambda I want. Jayshree, you are correct. Shivaji, you are correct. Sun Prakash, why 2 EMPs in the bracket, man? Not required. Pushpak, correct. Abhishek, correct. Srini, yes, correct. Akash Gupta, correct. Gopal Raj, correct. Yes, people are giving the correct answer. Good. Now see here how we are going to write the simple lambda. So as we discussed, lambda means no name, no modifier, no return type. So to convert this function, this is Java method into lambda, what we are going to do? How we are going to convert this? How we are going to convert this into lambda? Got it? Remove the name, remove the return type, remove the modifier. Then what it will become? It will become employee of emp, data type and variable emp, then body curly braces. Here return emp dot get salary. I'm calling the getter method. Return emp dot get salary. As we discussed, data type is optional. So emp, curly brace is optional when there is only one line in the body. Emp dot get salary. Okay, when there is only one parameter, brackets also optional. Emp, when there is a single line, return statement is also optional. Emp dot get salary. That's it. This is the final version of the lambda for the given requirement. This is the final version of the lambda for the given requirement. Good. Understood. Understood, guys. Clear? Yes. So with this, we are able to understand how to write the Lambda in the Java. With this, we are able to understand how to write the Lambdas in the Java. Quickly revise what is Lambda. Why Lambdas introduced in the Java? Lambda expressions introduced in Java 1.8 version. This Lambda expressions introduced for giving functional programming support for Java. With the help of Lambda expressions, we are able to achieve functional programming in the Java. Earlier, Java is just object-oriented programming language. Everything will be represented in the form of classes and objects. Any methods that you want to write, you should write inside the class only. Method outside of the class has no meaning in the Java up to 1.7. But in the 1.8, Lambdas introduced, Lambdas supporting for functional programming. You can write the functions. Function can be passed as a parameter for another method. A function can be written outside of the class, outside of the object. Function can be stored into a variable also. Like that functional programming got introduced by using lambdas. What is the official definition of lambda? Lambda is an anonymous function. Lambda will not have any name. Lambda will not have any modifier. Lambda will not have any return type. This is one example. For this example, corresponding lambda is like this. Okay, and here example 2, this is add method. For the add method, this is the corresponding lambda. Okay guys, here I'm writing lambda expression. Here I'm writing lambda expression, and I'm taking third method. For the third method, this is our lambda expression. Lambda expression. I have taken fourth method. For fourth method, this is the lambda expression. I hope now you got the clarity how to write the lambda expressions. Lambda means no name, no return type, and no modifier. Now you may get a question. Okay, Ashok, we are able to write the lambdas, but how to call them? We are able to write the lambdas in the Java. That is good, but how to call them? Now I can write a lambda like this: system.out.println. System.out.println of something like a hi. Something like a hi. I'm going to write one lambda like this. But how to call it? There is no name. There is no name for the lambda. Lambda nothing but anonymous function, right? Lambda nothing but anonymous function now. Then how to call this lambda in the Java? To call the lambdas in the Java, functional interfaces got introduced. What is the meaning of functional interface? Functional interface concept is available in the Java. Functional interfaces. What is the meaning of functional interfaces? The interface which contains only one abstract method. What is the functional interface? The interface which contains only one abstract method is called as functional interface. The interface contains only one abstract method is called as functional interface. Functional interfaces are used to invoke lambda expressions. What is the main use of functional interface? Whenever we write a lambda function that will not have any name, so then how to call that lambda? To call that lambda, functional interfaces concept got introduced. The interface which contains only one abstract method is called functional interface. What is the difference between marker interface and functional interface? In Java, we have a marker interface and we have functional interface from 1.8. What is the difference between marker interface and functional interface, guys? Can anyone tell me? What is the difference between marker interface and functional interface in Java? Come on, first. Marker interface nothing but a function. Marker interface nothing but no methods. The interface which does not contain any method, that is called as marker interface. The interface which contains only one abstract method is called as functional interface. So please remember the difference. Marker interface, functional interface, both are not same. Marker interface nothing but the interface which does not contain anything. The interface which does not contain single method also is called as marker interface. The interface which contains only one abstract method, that is called as functional interface. The interface which contains only one abstract method is called functional interface. Functional interfaces are used to invoke Lambda expressions. Whenever you write a Lambda expression, to invoke that Lambda expression, we are going to use functional interfaces. Functional interfaces are used to invoke Lambda expression. Sir, can we write default methods and static methods in the functional interface? Can we write default methods and static methods in the functional interface? You can write any number of default methods and static methods, but abstract method should be only one. Functional interface should have only one abstract method. The interface which contains only one abstract method is called as functional interface. Functional interfaces are used to invoke Lambda expressions. If you take the example of runnable interface is having only run method. That is a functional interface. If you take a callable interface, callable interface is having only one method called call method. Only call method. If you go for comparable interface, this is having only one method called compare to method. It is having only one method called compare to method. Runnable is one functional interface, callable is one functional interface, comparable is one functional interface. So to represent interface as a functional interface, we will use one annotation called @functional interface. To represent one interface as a functional interface, we will use one annotation @functional interface. @functional interface is the annotation to verify our interface is really functional interface or not. Our interface is really having only one abstract method or not. That will be verified by functional interface. Okay, guys. To represent our interface as a functional interface, we will use one annotation called @functional interface. The interface which does not contain any method, that is called marker interface. The interface which contains only one abstract method, that is called functional interface. What is the purpose of functional interfaces? Functional interfaces are used to invoke Lambda expressions. So Lambda expression means what? No name, no return type, no modifier. Lambdas are used to achieve functional programming. When we write a Lambda expression in the program, then to call that Lambda, we are going to use a functional interface. The interface which contains only one abstract method, that is called functional interface. How to represent our interface as a functional interface? To represent our interface as a functional interface, we are going to use @functional interface annotation. This is a concept called annotation. It is used to verify really our interface is a functional interface or not. Now, let me take one scenario. Public interface, my interface. Public interface, my interface. To represent this interface as a functional interface, I'm writing @functional interface. Whenever I write @functional interface, then Java compiler will check that this interface is really functional interface or not. So @functional interface is nothing but we are giving the instruction, this annotation we are writing at the interface to give the instruction to the Java compiler. Hey compiler, please check it. This interface is having only one abstract method or not. If this interface is having only one abstract method, then only compile. Otherwise, don't compile. So that is the meaning of that. Writing a annotation. Annotation means annotations are used to give the instructions. Here, I'm writing one annotation on the top of the interface. When I write the annotation on the top of the interface, compiler will check it. this is a functional interface or not. If I remove this, compiler will not check that because it is a normal interface only. So when I don't write the @ functional interface, in this interface I can write any number of abstract methods, any number of default methods, any number of static methods. But my intention, I want to write my interface as a functional interface, and I want my compiler to check that this interface is a functional interface. How to check that? How to inform that to compiler, hey compiler, please check it. This interface is a functional interface or not. That's where we are writing one annotation called @ functional interface. When I write this annotation at the interface level, then compiler will check it. This interface is having only one abstract method or not. If interface does not have any abstract method, if interface contains more than one abstract method, this interface compilation will fail by our compiler. Understood? What is the meaning of writing this annotation? What is the meaning of why I am writing this annotation here? Why I am writing this annotation here? Now the next question comes into your mind. What is annotation? In the Java, we have classes, we have interfaces, we have abstract classes, we have enumerations. Similarly, annotations also available. In advanced Java classes, we are going to understand what are annotations. Here, for a time being, we are using one annotation. We are using one annotation. Okay. Understood my point? When I write this annotation at the interface level, then what will happen? Compiler will make sure, compiler will check that this interface is having only one abstract method or not. Compiler will check that this interface is having only one abstract method or not. If interface having more than one abstract method, if interface does not have any abstract method, then compilation will fail for our interface. Compilation will fail for our interface. Okay, here I'm going to write one method. I'm going to write one method public void m1, and I'm going to write one method public void m2. Now guys, tell me, this interface can be compiled or this interface cannot be compiled? I'm writing one functional interface annotation. Here I'm writing methods in my interface. This interface can be compiled or this interface cannot be compiled. Why this interface cannot be compiled? What is the reason? What is the reason? How many abstract methods are available? How many abstract methods available? 2 abstract methods available. But what is the meaning of functional interface? What is the meaning of functional interface? It should have only one abstract method. But how many abstract methods I have? 2 abstract methods we have. Compiler will check that this interface is having one annotation @ functional interface. @ functional interface means there should be only one abstract method, but it is having 2 abstract methods. So this will fail at the compile time. Compile time error. What it is going to get, guys? It is going to get compile time error. Compile time error. Now I'm going to write like this. I'm going to write like this. This is my functional interface. I'm writing like this. Now this second interface can be compiled or second interface cannot be compiled. This second interface can be compiled or it cannot be compiled. Come on, make it fast. Second interface can be compiled or second interface cannot be compiled. Cannot compile. Why? There should be at least one abstract method. There should be one abstract method. But in the interface, abstract method is available or abstract method is not available. Not available. Functional interface annotation is available. When you give functional interface annotation, it should have one abstract method. It's mandatory. It's mandatory. In the first interface, there are 2 abstract methods. It is invalid. In the second interface, 0 abstract methods. It is invalid. Functional interface means there should be at least, not at least, there should be only one abstract method. Then only it is called as functional interface. Okay, now Let me take another scenario. Interface parent. Interface parent public void m1. And here I'm taking interface child. Interface child. Child extends parent. Child extends parent. For both, I'm writing at the rate of functional interface. For parent, I'm writing functional interface. For child also, I'm writing functional interface. Okay. For parent, I'm giving functional interface. For child also, I'm giving functional interface. Tell me, this is valid or it is invalid? Valid or invalid? With respect to inheritance. Child interface, I represented as a functional interface. Parent interface, I represented as a functional interface. Child interface extending from the parent, is it valid or it is invalid? Can you guys tell me that? Can you guys tell me that? Valid or invalid? It is valid, guys. Valid. The reason, parent is functional interface. It is having only one abstract method. Child does not have any method. So parent method will come to the child. Child is having parent method. Parent is having parent method. It is valid. It is valid. When the child does not have any methods, parent methods will be available for child also, right? So it is valid. Child interface does not contain any method. Parent interface is there. Okay. Only one method came into child level. From parent only one method came into child level. So that's why it is valid. It is valid. For example, now let me take another scenario. Public interface parent. Public interface parent void m1, and I'm taking public interface child extends from parent. Public interface child extends parent. Here I'm having m2. Then valid or invalid? This scenario is valid or invalid? This scenario is valid or invalid? This scenario is valid. This scenario is valid. What about this scenario? What about this fourth scenario? First scenario, compile time error because it is having two abstract methods. Second scenario also invalid because there is no abstract method. Third scenario is valid. Parent method came to child method. Child is having only one abstract method. It is valid. Based on that, can you tell me fourth scenario is valid or invalid? Fourth scenario invalid. The reason, child is already having one method. Child is already having one method. From parent one method came. So child is having two methods. It is invalid. Right? Fourth scenario is invalid. Compile time error. Third scenario is valid because child is getting the properties from parent. One method came from parent to child. Third scenario is valid. But fourth scenario invalid. Child already having one abstract method. From parent one abstract method came. That's why it got failed. That's why it got failed. That's why it got failed. Okay. Now let me write one more scenario. Interface parent. interface parent, functional interface, public interface parent. I'm taking a functional interface. In the functional interface, I'm writing public void m1, public void m1. Okay, here I'm not writing public, guys. There is no space. Interface child extends parent. Interface child extends parent. Public void m3, public void m4. Valid or invalid. This scenario. Fifth scenario, valid or invalid. Fifth scenario, valid or invalid. Invalid. Fifth scenario, valid. Why? Because I'm not writing functional interface for the child. Child is a normal interface. It can contain any abstract methods. Understood? In the child interface, am I writing functional interface annotation? Tricky question, right? In the child interface, am I writing functional interface annotation? No. When there is no functional interface, it is a normal interface. Normal interface can contain any number of abstract methods. Any number of abstract methods. My child interface having 3 abstract methods now. M1 came from the parent, M3, M4 available. It is still valid because it is not a functional interface. So when the compiler will check that there should be only one abstract method in the interface, when the compiler will verify there should be only one abstract method in the interface. If you write the annotation functional interface, then only compiler will check that does it have only one abstract method or not. This scenario is valid. Okay, guys. Clear for everyone? You can take a screenshot. 5 scenarios to understand what is functional interface. 5 scenarios to understand what is functional interface. Got the clarity? You got the clarity? What is a functional interface? Yes. Tell me, what is a functional interface? What is a functional interface? The interface which contains only one abstract method is called as functional interface. Functional interfaces are used to invoke Lambda expressions. To represent one interface as functional interface, we will use @functional interface annotation. Okay, public interface, my interface. Inside this interface, you need to write only one abstract method, public void m1. To represent this annotation as a functional interface, @functional interface. So writing this annotation is optional, but what is the advantage of writing this annotation? If I write that annotation at the interface level, what is the benefit we are getting? As a programmer, what is the benefit we are getting when we write that annotation? What is the benefit we are getting when we write that annotation? Can you guys tell me? When I write that annotation, what is the benefit I'm going to get? What is the benefit I'm getting when I write that annotation? Come on. What is the benefit I'm getting with that annotation? we are telling the compiler to check our interface is a valid functional interface or not. Okay, when we write at the rate functional interface, then our compiler will check interface contains only one abstract method or not. Interface contains only one abstract method or not. That's it. Can I write default methods and static methods? Yes. Inside the functional interface, you can write the default methods and static methods. Rule is applicable only for abstract methods. You can write any number of default and static methods in the functional interface. You can write any number of default methods and static methods in the functional interface. Are you clear with my point? Are you clear with my point? Yes. Why we are learning about the functional interfaces, guys? Is there any reason or just for time pass? Why we are learning these functional interfaces? Is there any reason or just for time pass? Why we are learning functional interfaces? People are not active. People are sleeping. You need to smash that chat box with your replies. You need to feel more energetic. Being a patient, you see my energy. Even my leg is not good. That much energy I'm not able to see from you guys. We are learning functional interfaces for interview purpose. Oh my God. Somebody saying that is learning functional interface for interview purpose. We are learning functional interfaces to invoke Lambda expressions. I gave you the first statement now. Why we are going for functional interfaces? Functional interfaces are used to invoke Lambda expressions. Below are some predefined functional interfaces. Okay. Yeah, tell me, what is Lambda and what is functional interface? Now you understood what is Lambda and what is functional interface. Can you guys tell me that quickly? Please respond in the chat. What is Lambda and what is functional interface? People watching from Zoom, people watching from YouTube, both has to respond. You need to be interactive in the session. Then only I will get more energy to discuss more subject. Okay, it's not just for time pass we are learning. This is Java 8 features will change your career in the interview. Very, very important. Without functional interfaces, Lambda expressions, stream API, your interview will not be completed in the company. In every interview, irrespective of your experience, whether you are fresher or 1 year or 3 years or 10 years, they will ask the questions on the Java 8, which is trending in the market. 80% of Java projects are still running with Java 8, even though Java 19 version released into the market. Still Java 8 having that much demand. What is the Lambda and what is functional interface? Lambdas, nothing but anonymous functions without name, without modifier, without return type. Lambdas are used to reduce number of lines of code in the program. Lambdas are used to reduce number of lines of code in the program. Lambdas are nothing but nameless functions. Nameless functions, nothing but anonymous functions. Lambda will not have any name. Lambda will not have any modifier. Lambda will not have any return type. Good. When we write a Lambda expression, in order to invoke the earlier, we used to write the methods. To call the methods, we will create the object, we will call the method by using method name. But Lambda is an anonymous function, there is no name. How to call the Lambda? To call the Lambda, we are going for functional interface. What is a functional interface? The interface which contains only one abstract method, that is called functional interface. Functional interfaces are used to invoke the Lambda expressions. How to represent one interface as a functional interface? By using @functional interface annotation. What will happen when we write that annotation? Our compiler will check that that interface contains only one abstract method or not. You can write any number of default methods and static methods in the functional interface. Functional interface rule is applicable only for the abstract methods. How simple it is. How interesting it is. Good. Able to understand? In my class, every point, every topic, I will repeat 2 to 3 times so that it will inject into your brain directly. Every topic, every concept, I will repeat 2 to 3 times so that it will inject into your brain. It will be stored in your brain for a long time. You don't need to butify anything. Samjha? Chalo. Now, can we write our first Lambda and can we call that Lambda by using functional interface? Can we write our first Lambda program and can we see that? First, let me take a program without lambdas. First, let me take a program without lambda and I will show you the difference between lambda and life without lambda, life with lambda. Life without lambda, life with lambda. Okay, let me create one new package. Name in.ashokit.java 8. So this is my package name. In this package, I'm going to create one class. I'm going to create one class, my app1. My app1 is one class I'm going to create. Okay, guys, my app1. In this class, I'm writing one interface. I'm writing one interface, my interface 1. My interface 1. This interface contains one method, public void yum1. Public void yum1. Okay, so this interface is having one abstract method. Interface is having one abstract method. Public void abstract methods do not specify a body. Sorry. Yeah. Public void yum1. I'm writing one interface. My interface contains one abstract method. I'm taking a class. My class wants to implement this interface. I want to call this method. I want to call the m1 method. Okay, guys. So my class should implement that interface by using implements keyword. Public class my app implements my interface. So here we are going to take it as m1 method is available. Implement my interface 1. Implement my interface 1. So m1 method we are going to override. M1 method we are going to override system.out.println of m1 method. M1 method called. Then go for main method. In that main method, create the object my app1. My app1 is equal to new my app1. My app1 dot m1. This is a story. If you want to implement a interface and if you want to call the method of the interface, I have a interface called my interface 1. In this interface, I have one method called m1. Here I have a class. My class is implementing that interface. I'm overriding the m1 method. Whenever we implement a interface, it's mandatory that we need to override all the methods of the interface. Whenever we implement a interface, it's mandatory that we need to override all the methods of the interface. Then I'm creating object for my implementation class and I'm calling that method. Run this, run as Java application. Yes, M1 method called. So this is our regular object oriented programming where we are going to create a class and we will implement the interface and we will call the methods by using objects. This is the style of coding up to 1.7 version of Java. Okay, now if you go for 1.8 version, how that coding style got changed with lambdas and functional interfaces. Let me create one new program. Okay, it created in the previous package. Yeah. Okay, no problem. Here I'm going to create one more class, my app2. In this program, I will use lambdas. Okay, right. I'm going to take one interface, my interface 2. I'm taking. In this interface, I'm writing public void yum2. So there is a method inside the interface. Can I call my interface as a functional interface? Can I give that annotation? Is it a valid functional interface now? Is it considered as a valid functional interface now? Guys, come on. Is it considered as a valid functional interface now? Yes, because there is only one abstract method. Earlier, when the interface is having abstract method, my class is implementing that interface, my class is overriding that method. In that I'm creating the object for the class, I'm calling the method. This is normal style of programming. But now we are lambda programmers. How to use the lambda? Let's go for main method. Let us go for main method. You no need to implement that interface. You can write a lambda. You can write a lambda and you can call that lambda. Okay, what is our requirement? We want to print one simple message. That's it. Okay, for that lambda, how we are going to write the lambda? No input, just body. That is system.out.println yum2 called. yum2 method called. This is my lambda. Okay, guys. So whenever we are writing a lambda, what we will do? No name, no return type, no modifier. Just I'm representing parameter parenthesis. If any input if you want to supply, then you can supply that input by using parenthesis. Arrow mark will represent lambda. After the arrow, body. Body is a single line, so curly braces are also optional. So this is my lambda. Sir, earlier method is available, method is having a name, method is having a return type, method is having a modifier. I created the object for the class and I called that method. But now how you will call it? How you will call it? You are writing a lambda to print a message. Earlier also I'm printing message only, but by using method I am printing the message earlier. But now I want to print the message only by using lambda, not by using method. I'm writing a lambda to print a message, but how to call this lambda? Lambda means anonymous function. There is no name, there is no modifier, there is no return type. Good. In order to call this lambda, we need to use functional interface. What is this? My interface 2 my interface 1, I have given the name 1. Let me give it as 2. My interface 2, I'm going to give my interface 2 is equal to, that's it. Whatever the lambda I have written, lambda I stored into a variable which is belongs to functional interface. Once you store the lambda expression into a reference variable mit.yum2, whenever we execute this program, now it is going to execute yum2 method called. So how I called my lambda now? Can I say whatever the lambda expression I have, that lambda expression I stored into functional interface variable and that functional interface method I called. That is the reason Java compiler will check there should be only one abstract method. That abstract method is used to call the lambda. Whatever the lambda expression you write, that lambda expression you can store into a functional interface reference variable. By using that functional interface reference variable, you can call the abstract method. When I call the yum2 will call this lambda. This is the way how we are going to call lambda expression. Can we see earlier interface implementing by class, overriding the method, creating the object and calling the method. But now just we are creating a lambda and we are storing the lambda into functional interface, and we are calling that lambda, we are invoking the lambda by using functional interface method. Can I say less number of lines of code we are writing? Can I say less number of lines of code we are writing by using lambdas? Got my point? You don't need to implement that interface. That is the beauty of the lambda, right? You don't need to implement that interface. That is the beauty of the lambda. Now run this program, run as a Java application. Whenever we run this Java application, we are getting the output as M2 method called. Who is calling that M2 method? Where is that M2 method? M2 is lambda. Lambda expression I have created. So this lambda expression I stored into a variable. That variable belongs to functional interface. Whenever you call the method of that functional interface, this lambda will be invoked. That is the meaning of lambda expression. What is the purpose of lambda? Lambda is used to write. Lambda is used to write. Lambda is used to write less number of lines of code. Whenever we write the less number of lines of code in the lambda, then we will use functional interfaces to invoke the lambdas. So this is the example to write one simple lambda and how to call that lambda. A simple example to write lambda and how to call that lambda. Are you guys able to follow me? Are you guys able to follow me? Understood? Good. Perfect. Instead of implementing the interface and overriding the methods and creating the objects, simply we are able to call the lambda. We are able to write the lambda expressions. We are able to write the lambda expression. To invoke those lambda expressions, we are using functional interfaces. Lambda expression, anonymous function. That anonymous function we stored into a variable. That variable we are calling. That variable we are calling. Okay, guys. Using that variable, we are invoking the lambda. Lambda function we are calling. Anonymous function. Good. Fine. Perfect. We understood a basic lambda, how to write it, and how to invoke that. Next one. In the Java, they provided several predefined functional interfaces. In Java 8, several predefined functional interfaces got introduced. What are those? First one is predicate. Second one is predicate. Second one is consumer. Third one is supplier. Fourth one is function. Now, when we are working with the stream API, these lambdas, these functional interfaces also we are going to use. Now, in Java 8, several predefined functional interfaces got introduced. They are predicate, consumer, supplier, and a function. Okay, guys. These functional interfaces are provided in java.util.function package. The above interfaces are provided in java.util.function package. Whatever the functional interfaces available in the Java, whatever the predefined functional interfaces available here, predicate, consumer, supplier, function, all these interfaces are provided in java.util.function package. So we understood what is lambda. how to write a simple lambda. We understood what is a functional interface, and we understood how to call that lambda by using functional interface. Now it is the time to understand what are the predefined functional interfaces available and why they are introduced and what is the purpose of them and how to work with them. So what are the predefined functional interfaces available? Predicate, consumer, supplier, function. Like that there are several functional interfaces are available. Like that there are several functional interfaces are available. Okay, now let's understand first one, predicate. Let's start the discussion related to predicate. Predicate is a functional interface. Let's understand predicate. What is the predicate? It is predefined functional interface. It is predefined functional interface. It is used to perform some conditional check. It is alternate for if else conditions, guys, right? It is a predefined functional interface. It is used to check conditions. It is used to check condition and returns true or false value. Returns true or false value. True or false value. Okay, now let me take one simple Java class without lambda and with lambda to show you the difference. Let me take one simple Java class. I'm going to take one class as predicate demo. I'm going to take one class as a predicate demo. Inside this, I'm writing a main method. Inside this, I'm writing a main method. Okay, guys. Now I want to check given number is greater than 10 or not. Public boolean test integer I. Okay, then what we will do? If I greater than 10, then return true, else return false. Okay, guys. Public boolean test, I'm passing integer as a parameter. If I is greater than 10, it will return true, else it will return false value. Instead of writing this much big logic, can we do that by using lambda? Can we do that by using lambda? Simply, I'm going to take I greater than 10. I greater than 10. Now, this is my lambda. I is the input for the lambda and lambda is checking a condition. If I is greater than 10, it will return true. Otherwise, it will return false value. Now, this is lambda. How to call the lambda? This is a normal Java method without lambda. This is method without lambda. Method without lambda. This much logic I am writing to check whether my given number is greater than 10 or not. If the given number is greater than 10, it has to return true. Otherwise, it has to return false value. Instead of writing these many lines of code, instead of writing a separate method to do that, simply I am writing a lambda. In order to call the lambda, we need to write a functional interface, but not required. When you have a lambda which will check a condition and it will return true or false value, for that, Java provided one predefined functional interface which is called predicate. What is that interface, guys? Predicate interface provided by this Java. Predicate P is equal to I of I greater than 10. In the predicate interface, there is a predefined method, test method, which we are passing as a input. Phi. I'm passing phi. Now this method is not required. Simply, if I want to check my given number is greater than 10 or not, I'm writing a lambda. I is a input. If I greater than 10, return true, otherwise return false value. In order to invoke this lambda, whenever your lambda will take a input and will return true or false based on condition, for that we can go for predicate. Predicate is a conditional based functional interface. Predicate is a conditional based functional interface. Predicate interface is having only one method, that is called test method. There is one method that is called test method. The test method is a abstract method. But what about this default methods, default methods, default methods, static methods? So this is a functional interface. At the rate functional interface since 1.8 represents a predicate boolean valued of one argument. It will take a single argument as an input and it will return true or false. This functional interface contains only one abstract method called test method, and there are several default methods available. Good. How they have given it as a functional interface? With this annotation. Right. It is used to check the condition and returns true or false value. Predicate interface having only one abstract method, that is test method. The syntax of that is interface predicate. In this interface there is a test method which will return boolean value, test of t. You can pass any object as the input for this, any data as the input. Now whenever you have a requirement to take some input and check the condition and return some value, then write a lambda. No need to write the method from now to do that operation. You can write a lambda. That lambda you want to execute to check that given value is greater than 10 or not. For that we are going for predicate. So to call this lambda, earlier I have written a lambda. In order to call that lambda, I have taken one functional interface. I stored this lambda into functional interface and I called the functional interface method. When I called functional interface method, my lambda expression got executed. But now, so my lambda is taking an input, checking the condition, returning the true or false. To do this operation, you no need to write a functional interface because already there is a functional interface predefined which is called predicate. What is the purpose of predicate? Predicate is used to take the input and returns true or false value based on the logic. Now when I'm calling p.test, it is going to return some value. System.out.println p of test of 5. P of test of 5. Then let's run this program. False. I greater than 10. It is false. I is not greater than 10. Test of 15. Run this program. Yes, it is true. So can I say this lambda is executing when I call the test method? Can I say that lambda is executing when I call the test method? Is my lambda executed when I call the test method? Integer represents that is generic type. Got it? Now I'm going to give one requirement, guys. Can you implement that by using predicate? I will give one requirement. Can you print that by using predicate? I will give one requirement. Can you implement that by using predicate? Predicate example. Predicate example. Next one, task. Declare names in an array. Declare names in an array and print names which are starting with a using lambda. In the interview, they will ask a question like this. Declare names in an array and print names which are starting with the a character using lambda expression. I'm going to give some names like this in the array. String names is equal to, let's take some heroine names. Anushka, Anupama, Deepika, Kajal, and next one. Any other name? Sunny. Good. Yes. I have given some names in an array. Can you write a lambda expression which will print the names which are starting with A by using lambda? Declare a names in an array and print names which are starting with A using lambda expression. Can you guys do that? Can you guys do that? Can you guys do that? Come on. You understood predicate, right? When you will go for a predicate? When your requirement is to take one input and check condition, return true or false value. How to write it? Yes. Let me take one example. Predicate demo2. Predicate demo2 class. Predicate demo2. Now, let me write one main method. In this main method, I'm going to declare a array with names. I'm declaring one array with names. Now, first I need to write the lambda, which will tell me the names which are starting with the character A. Okay, how to write the lambda? Let me pass the name as the input for the lambda. Name, and name I am passing. Name dot caret of A. Name dot caret of A equals to A. That is my lambda. This is used to compare the name is really starting with A or not. So I have a array. From the array, I will take a name. Each name I will pass as the input for my lambda. My lambda will check the first character, caret of 0, basically not A, caret of 0. Caret of 0 is equal to A or not. Caret of 0 method will give you first character of the given string. Every name is one string. Every name I will give as input for my lambda. My lambda will check the first character of the name is equal to A or not. Now, this is a lambda. Can I say this lambda will take some input, will return true or false value? Can I say this lambda will take some input and will return true or false value? Yes or no? Yes or no? Now, in order to call any lambda which will take input and will return true or false, do we need to write our own functional interface, or I can use a predicate for this? Do I need to write our own interface, or I can go for a predicate for this? Can I use a predicate? Yes. When to go for a predicate? When to go for a predicate? Any lambda which will take a input, do some checks and returns true or false, then you can go for predicate. Conditional checking. When your lambda is doing a conditional check to return true or false, then you can go for predicate. Now see, for string name, I'm going to use names for each loop. Then I will call p.test of name. P.test of name. Then lambda expression will call, lambda will return true or false. If it is true, then I will print the name. That's it. Then I will print that name. That's it. Okay, guys, understand the logic here. I'm declaring one array. In the array, I'm taking some names and I want to check the name which is starting with character A, and I want to print only the names which are starting with character A. I want to print the names which are starting with character A. Name dot caret of 0 equal to A, or you can use starts with A method also, you can use, no problem. This is a lambda. To call the lambda, we need functional interface, but this is very common scenario. Taking a input, checking the condition, returning the true or false. It's a common requirement for every project. That's why Java introduced one predefined functional interface called predicate. When your Lambda is taking an input and doing some conditional check and returning true or false, to invoke that Lambda, there is a predefined functional interface called predicate. Predicate interface having a test method. The test method is taking a input. What is input for the Lambda? String is a input for the Lambda, that is a name. P.test of name. Whenever I call P.test of name, this Lambda will be executed. It will return true or false. If it is true, that means the given name starts with A, then I will print up. If the test method return false, that means the given name not starting with A, then it will not print it. Run this program, run as Java application, Anushka and Anupama. Only two names are starting with character A. Only two names are starting with character A. Are you clear? Are you clear with my point? Understood. Just look at the logic, Mr. Gopal. Vishu, look at the logic, you will understand. What is the requirement? What is the requirement? Declare names in an array and print names which are starting with A using Lambda expression. This is the task. You need to take set of names as an array, collection of names. You need to write the logic to print the names which are starting with the character A by using Lambda expression. You need to write the logic to print the names which are starting with character A by using Lambda expression. They will ask this kind of questions in the interview. Now, first I'm writing a Lambda. My Lambda will take a name as an input. Name is input for the Lambda. Lambda is checking a condition. Lambda body is checking that this name, whatever the name we have given as input for the Lambda, is it having a first character as A or not? Caret of 0 will give the first character of the given input. It is checking with A. Is it starting with A or not? Then whenever you call this Lambda, it will return true or false. To call this Lambda, there is a predefined functional interface called predicate. When we call P.test, this Lambda will call. This Lambda will return true or false. If Lambda returns true, that name will be printed. If Lambda returns false, that name will not be printed. Conditional checking by using Lambda. So when the Lambda is having a logic to check the condition, to execute that Lambda, we have predicate as a functional interface in the Java. Predicate functional interface introduced in Java 1.8 version. Test is the method in the predicate interface to call it. To execute the Lambda, we are using functional interface. Functional interface method we will call. When we call the functional interface method, then that Lambda expression will execute, which we stored in that functional interface variable. Got my point? Understood, everybody? Perfect. Good. Thank you. With this, we understood what is Lambda, how to write the Lambda, what is functional interface, scenarios of the functional interfaces also we discussed, and we are able to write one simple Lambda expression, and we are able to call them by using user-defined functional interface, and we are able to write one Lambda, and we are calling that with the predefined functional interface, and we are writing one task, and we implemented the task by using predicate. Understood, all of you? Are you clear with this? Yeah, fine. Good, thank you. With this, I'm stopping for today. We'll continue in the tomorrow session, guys. In the tomorrow session, we will talk about this interfaces only. Tomorrow we'll try to understand the remaining interfaces. Daily class will be there for 2 hours. 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. class will be available. For tomorrow's class, new Zoom link will be available. The people who completed the enrollment, they will get the new Zoom link and they will get the portal access. My Java people, my core Java students, the Zoom link will be updated in the portal. You need to join the class from the portal from tomorrow. Tomorrow class will have a new Zoom link. The people who are interested to continue, so they need to complete their enrollment process. Then they will get the class notes and they will get the backup video and they will get the new Zoom link also. The people who completed the enrollment, they will get the access in the portal and they will get this class notes also. My existing core Java students, 6 p.m. batch people, I will update these notes in the portal in another 5 minutes. You can access that.